Hello everybody. Thank you for selecting this video. I hope you will enjoy the subject that I have presented to you today. From my previous articles, you may remember that I have been researching on working with globals in embedded Python several times already, and now as the official release is published, I wanted to dig and see how it is finally working. Well, and therefore I was researching the documentation, and this was rather disappointing, since even the documentation for the native API in Python was better than what I could find here. I didn't have great expectations. What I wanted to do is set the global, get the content, kill the global, navigate the global, use $data, $order, $query, and nothing else. No specials, no tricks, just normal use of globals. Okay, and now I invite you to watch the results. I'm using here the default embedded Python shell, as it makes things rather easy, rather fast, visible. The first, to access a global, you need a global object that defines where you go. And you set this. I name it glob. It's from the iris package and named ref. And I set it to my global named RCC. I can do this, create this global reference also with the caret in front of it, and you may miss it. But it doesn't make any difference, since by gref it's pretty clear that you're referencing a global and nothing else. So this is not necessary. And similar, the name of the global can be, of course, in a variable that you get passed. And in that sense, it works a little bit like global indirection, where you also pass the name of the global you work on in a variable. So, and next I take a look into the class definition and print it out, and it tells me this is a global reference object using iris.graph method. Okay, that's not so much yet. And if I want to set a value, I now take my glob, add the subscripts that are written here in brackets, and set it to a value. That looks pretty much the same as you had in ObjectScript. This is a shortcut, since there exists also a set method which does the same. So for the next one, I use this method. Set, and as parameters, I have to pass the subscripts. and the value that I want to set. And that's it. As you see, the syntax is pretty simple, not much different than in ObjectScript, except for the top clover. For the top clover, you have also to provide a virtual subscript, and the value of the subscript is just none. And none is used here in the same way as you would say null if you're using SQL. It's the same functionality, and you will see it comes every now and then where there is just no content. It is displayed as none. To verify that this is really working, I have a second terminal window, and there, that right shows me we have the subscript 1.1, 1,3, and the related values. That's just normal ObjectScript. And once again, for this method, there is an interactive documentation available. Tells you what is expected to do, what it does. It doesn't document the shortcut we have used at the first set. To access the global content, all I have to do is either run the shortcut, which is looking similar, 3 than before. And the nice thing about Python is you get the immediate display of the value. Of course, there is also a get method. And you have the subscript. And here it is. And as before, we also take a look on the interactive documentation and see a rather simple example how it works. Yes, well, we have seen this is the case. We're using it. But be careful. The get you see here is not at all the $get that you may know from ObjectScript, since if the value doesn't exist, you just get an exception. And this looks like this. Get. Now let's take a subscript that doesn't exist. 1,99. It definitely doesn't exist. And yeah, you get a key error, global undefined. If you haven't trapped it, well, you have to find a different solution. Though it's not everywhere the same. If I assign value x equals the error is still the same, but the major difference, if I use the shortcut and say is no error. If I print out my X, I see nothing, but if I use print method, I see none. So this is an indication that there is no content. The variable X exists, but it has no content. So by this approach you can mimic the $get function that we know from object script. I have no idea if this was intended behavior, but I think it's very useful in some situations. The next step that I want to present to you is the kill function. Setting a value to null string doesn't help. You really need a kill to remove the global node. So we type in dot kill, and we know there was a node 1,3. Oop. This was a mistake. Oh. I like this type of shell that it gets me immediate my typing errors back and allows me to kill. So how can I verify if this works? I go back, set my variable y to 1,3, print y, and that's none. So it's evident that the global is gone. We could verify it as well with set reader, but that doesn't make much sense. And we take a look at the interactive documentation for the kill method, and well, you see there it explains exactly what's happening. So this is the basic functions, and I was really surprised how well this interactive documentation works, including the examples. So as a next section, I will take care of the various functions that are handling and testing globals, and one of the most important ones is of course store data. Here it's just named data. I type my globe. The function is data, and if I don't supply any subscript, it's the top level, and it tells me it's 10, which is correct. As we remember, we had no top level value here in the beginning and only subscript level data. This is a little bit lazy, as we didn't have a exact formulation. So formally correct, we should say here none to express we want the top level. Yeah, and now let's set a value into the top level, and yeah, all I have to do is none equals 9. and I repeat my data function, and now it tells me 11. Well, that's exactly what we expect from the $data function. Now let's take another look. There is a subscript level 1, 1. It tells me 1. Right. It's there. And I take another one that we have just deleted, and it says 0. That's a pretty nice functionality, exactly as we know from $data from ObjectScript. And now we take a look into the interactive documentation. Okay, where is it? And it does exactly explain what we know already, 0, 1, 10, 11, and all the details about it. Yeah, you may read the documentation for $data if you're not fluent at that level. For the operation with $order and $query and some other stuff that you will see, I have a little bit expanded our existing Clover with a few more nodes, just for a little bit visibility and make it easier to verify. First, I want to take a look on the order function. Should be the equivalent of $order. And yes, that from the description it looks quite obvious what's happening. Here I can start my search from the very beginning. You see the empty brackets, which is an equivalent to a null string, and I get 1, which was expected. We know we have 2 in, and this is the reason to have the print. If you are at the end, you get back none. If you want to step down to a deeper level, you can say it's 1, null string. Let's do it that way. And you see there is a 1. And if I enter this 1 here, see the next is 2. So there is not much surprise in here, and order works just the way we expect it. Let's go a little bit further. With a tree level, I start with 2. Oops. Null string, oops, which is 3, and the next level is 4. The next at that level is 5, and that's none. So it's a pretty easy navigation, as you know from $order. There's no surprise behind this. As a next, I step into the query, and query acts a slightly different, or a little bit more than slightly different than we are used from $query. So I start the documentation, and you have to read it in very detail, since it starts at a specified key, that's normal, and returns each key and the value as a tuple, which means if you do this for a larger global, you not just get all the elements, but also get all the contents in there. Or I have tried this with my global ODD-dev, where you have the sources in, this is more than 1 million nodes, and it takes time. This is not fast, so be careful. It starts, but it ends only if the global is empty. And on top of it, it also lists all the virtual nodes that have no data in there. So if you use this, be very, very careful not to blow your environment. For our mini global, this is not a big deal. Oops. Now this is the correct call. Well, honestly, this is not easy to read. You see the tuples, subscript 1, 1, subscript 1, 1, 11, 1, 2, 12, 2, none. It's, yeah, to some surprise. But the doc gives us an example how it might work. So let's do it. So we do a for loop, and we do a print in there. Okay. And now this looks a little bit more friendly. Well, it's quite away from Z-write, but well, at least this is readable now. Well, and researching in the global class, in the global reference class, I found a function keys. And let's see what is expected to do. It runs like the query class, but just for the subscripts. So if we try this, we now just get the subscripts. Of course, also the empty subscripts, like 1, like 2, 2, 3, but not the content. So searching in a large environment, this is probably the better approach. The next secret or unusual function, let's put it that way. The next unusual function is named order iter, and I had just no imagination what it might do. So, and you see, it also starts in a way of doing $order, And you'd say, okay, that's great, but see what's really happening. I put it in a list to see the result immediately. And what we see is the top level is 1. It has no content. 1,1 has a content. That's the first surprise, since that looks much more like a dollar query. So let's continue and see what's going on. If I put my 1 here in. Oh, and now it acts at the first level like a dollar order, but fills it up with a dollar query style content, which is definitely a surprise. So, being curious what's happened after 2, it comes out with our last subscript 7 and its content. Here there is no deeper level and no other content to find. So it's a mix with dollar data and dollar query, and I'm not so clear where this is useful. You may find out it yourself. And here's our next surprise. Get as a byte. Doesn't look very surprising, not looking like something special. And you have the description here. It displays the content as a byte. Yeah, but if I apply this, so I apply this to one of our existing nodes, and it returns null. And I've tried this over all the other nodes. It just doesn't like numeric nodes. So if I set it to a string node, and I will do this now. And I run this as get as bytes. Oh, I get Robert with the byte indicator on front. If I do this with normal byte, I don't get the B in the beginning. I hope you don't ask me what's the purpose of it. I know there's some data structures in Python may need this. So out of curiosity, I have added a new node with a $list build structure in. You see it here. And well, let's see what get as bytes does to us. First I do the normal get, just to verify I have no typo. Yeah, it's there. Yeah, no discussion about the codes in $LB. They are not public. To press it friendly. And now I do it get the spikes. Okay, and I get the same with the B in front of it. Well, and finally, how could I find this out? The class gref has a dir method that lists all its methods inside the class, and yeah, we just have to print it out. And here we are. There's standard methods from her Python. And here we have data, get, sit, kill, get as bytes, order, query, order, iter keys, and that's what I showed to you. I hope this has helped, and you will find it useful when you're working with globals in embedded Python. Okay, this was the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was interesting to you, and I hope you will see me again with my next video on this channel. Goodbye.